Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Embrace the Face, where we're in season 4, all things weird and wonderful. And I have a very special guest today, wonderful guest, Miss Echo Summer Hill. Thank you, Echo, for joining.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
Yes, thank you so much. So, Echo is a divine feminine empowerment guide and an influencer, really. You have a profound impact in the
Mm.
social media world, in the divine feminine world. So, I wanted to have you on today. We've been trying to work out dates, and we finally got a good date
Yeah.
to talk about all of this. So, I
Yeah.
feel like you are such a light. You have such
Mm.
an empowering energy about you, and one that like really speaks to people. You're
Mm.
authentic, and
Mm.
I love people who are authentic
Thank
because I
you.
too strive to be that way. So I want you to go ahead and just introduce yourself for those who don't know you. Talk a little
Yeah.
bit about what you do, and then we're going to talk all about the weird and wonderful. So go ahead.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. I'm really grateful. So thank you for having me on. It's always interesting when somebody asks me, what do you do, right? And I feel like so many of us in this space are so multidimensional that it's hard just to pin it down to one thing. But I always say, in essence, like, I know that part of my soul mission was really, I was put here. I chose here in this lifetime to really help women come into their own, to come back to their, like I say, come back home to themselves, to their truth, to embodying their divine feminine in this lifetime. And to really, a big mission of mine is to help women heal the hustle. I'm writing a book called Heal the Hustle right now, all around helping. I had this download come in. So it's funny. This will be the first time I'm actually publicly sharing this, but I had this download. I was creating some swag. I have a spiritual swag shop, and I was creating this new piece of swag that came in, and the download for that came in. And then it was like, man, what do I really, what do I do? It's always been a question. Like, how do I explain to people what I do? And this download came in, and it, in so many words, it said, I help women go from tough girl, Miss Independent Feminist to powerful, sensual, peaceful, divine feminine. And so I help women soften their edges and really come back home to themselves, to a place of peace and fulfillment, without feeling like they're having to hustle and force and push and pull and drag themselves to some perceived level of success that they think is going to deem them worthy. And so just really helping women be truly happy, not just Instagram happy.
I love that. It's so true because nothing on social media is true.
Right.
And I know that personally, working in the
Mhm.
hustle for
Mhm.
almost 15 years
Yeah.
and in a perpetual state of fight or flight,
Mm.
fawn. I never worked the Monday to Friday 9 to 5. I did for a little bit, but I worked like the crazy shifts and the holidays and the weekends,
Yeah.
and it never felt in alignment for me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
until I, one, like walked away from that hustle,
Yeah.
and two, learned about softening my masculine energy. And do you
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about that, about what that
Yeah.
means?
Yeah, yeah, because a lot of women that aren't necessarily ready to, or they don't even know what that means, right? They don't even know what that looks like when you say, like, heal the hustle, or, heal the wounded masculine energy within us. And some of the boss babe era was huge for a really long time, right? Like, big time, like we were forced. And I feel that, and when I talk about, and I said it earlier, like going from feminist to divine feminine, it's it's really not about losing your power at all, because a lot of women are like, well, I'm not going to be this. I used to think like really super feminine women, and I don't know if you felt the same way, like super feminine women that I had witnessed in my life. I was always like, oh my God, they're so weak. Like, that was like an ego thing. I was like, oh, I never want to be weak like that. I never want to get taken advantage of or pushed over or run over or whatever, because it was more of like the wounded feminine I was witnessing. Right. But when you're truly awakened into your divine feminine, you start to heal that wounded masculine energy, which is the controlling energy. When my definition of hustle is not hard work. I still work hard. I have 5 different businesses that I run and, things that I do. And I still work hard. I just work in alignment now. Whereas before, hustle to me is the force, push, pull, drag energy, like I said, to achieve this level of success up here that you think once you get this, that's when you're worthy. That's when you're happy. And then what really ends up happening is that we burn ourselves out. We exhaust ourselves. We fry our adrenals, as you know a lot about with being a nurse and all of that. Like we are in this constant state of hustle, and a lot of us that are on this light worker journey as well, that have waken up to going, oh, okay, this isn't the way that I want to be, or this isn't the life, or you hit rock bottom like I did 7 years ago, where I literally like hit rock bottom emotionally, mentally, physically. Like I couldn't go into the hustle anymore. My body was physically shutting down. I was killing myself. A lot of us have autoimmune diseases that, they say are incurable and all this stuff. I was diagnosed 7 years ago with neurological Lyme disease and all these co-infections that I don't have today, right? Because of this journey. And so it's like when you awaken to the fact, like, okay, this is not feel good. I remember 7 years ago, I made my first $1 million, and I looked around and I was like, if this is what success is, I don't want it. I was the unhappiest, unhealthiest that I'd ever been. And I was drinking too much. I was diagnosed with that neurological Lyme disease. My body was shutting down. I was just like, this is awful if this is what success is. And that's when I had my big spiritual awakening, and I had to lay that hustle down. But I think part of my work is to help women realize they don't have to get to that rock bottom place, right? You can start to awaken to your divine feminine, heal the wounded parts of yourself, learn to advance in divine masculine systems and stuff to harmonize with the divine. There's so much that you can do so you don't get to that point, because a lot of us strong-willed women, I'm sure you feel the same, Allison, we can go, go, go. We can push, we can hold a lot, right? And so for a lot of us, I've noticed that those of us that are meant to do really big things, that a lot of us hit rock bottom, right? Like a lot of us are like, we have to hit that burnout because we ignore all the little signs of true burnout or exhaustion or overwhelm or hurting ourselves. We like ignore, put it under the rug until we just get knocked upside our head. And then we have to pay attention, and we have to learn to slow down. We have to learn to soften our edges and heal the trauma, really, right? That has put us into that fight or flight, to that hustle, survival energy. I know for me, it was survival energy from a child that I just never healed. So I just was always in survival mode up until 33 years old.
Oh, I can resonate with that on so many levels.
Yep.
So I hit my rock bottom. I stopped drinking 4 years ago.
Beautiful. Congrats.
Diagnosed with a neurodegenerative disease, autonomic neuropathy, which affects like all my organ systems, very similar to MS and Lyme's, like all those
Wow.
crazy, we're all anomalies, right? The
Right.
doctors can't fix us, but
Right.
I found a way to fix it, and it's
Oh, that's
possible.
so beautiful.
And I've, yeah, like you said too, like I'm sure you did the rounds of, Western medications and,
I
on
went through our naturopath and like did their
oh
6 months of protocol,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah,
But about 6 months in, I was like, I just don't feel like this is the answer. Like, yes, having, good vitamins and supplements and stuff. But like, I was like, this whole strict thing, I was like, this is all low frequencies. This is all energy and trauma in my body that I need to heal and release. And so
yeah.
I love to hear that you had such a similar, no wonder we have
Oh
a
yeah, I
connection,
went to I went to Mayo Clinic.
Oh, wow. So
I
you
live right
went that
outside
route.
of New
Yeah.
York City. I have wonderful specialists, and
Wow.
my neurologist in the city is like all on board. I told her, I said, I feel that I don't know if you're familiar with POTS or
Yes.
orthostatic hypotension. So
Mhm.
I had POTS. I healed my own POTS. Like I no longer
Wow.
need cardiac. So like these things are real when we heal our trauma,
Yep.
and when we dig deep and we realize my whole life I was told I was too much and I had to be
Mm.
quiet and I
Hmm.
couldn't be me. So I feel like all of that plus other things just kind of built up, and when you
Yeah.
recognize that and you're able to really look within, and I always tell my clients, like, when you acknowledge that this is your story,
Yep.
which I believe, like Louise Hay, you signed up for this, and
Yeah.
this is your journey in an aspect, and We
100%.
must look within, and we must accept, acknowledge, love, and forgive ourselves, forgive other people. And then that doesn't mean to forget. That never
Right.
means to forget nor not
Yeah.
hold people accountable.
Yeah.
But once you like release that energy, and I've witnessed it in myself, I've witnessed it in clients. And
Yeah.
I think that is what gives light workers like you, like I, like all the people in the world trying to heal others. That's what gives the motivation, because we see it firsthand. We know that it works.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's a beautiful story. So yeah, I totally resonate with
I
that.
love that. I
And
love your story too. And I think, there is, and another thing to add to that though is, and I'm sure you've experienced the naysayers, right? Like
mhm.
of, not believing necessarily in these aspects and the energy and all of that. But when the proof is in the pudding, and
My
it's,
favorite
and it's
saying, the
so,
proof is in the pudding.
yeah, and it's so beautiful that there's so many of us that are awakening to this journey. And I think anybody listening right now or watching, it's important to understand that you were guided to this podcast for a reason, to this, there's something. That's what we're here to do, right? Is to spread our light and not to dim and hide and all of that, so that we can help others awaken to their truth and their power too. And because there's a lot of people, as you know, in this lifetime, that it's not their lifetime to awaken to this, or to awaken to their healing powers, or their truth, and come home to themselves fully to heal these kind of things. But for those that are, like, I have no doubt that you've been put in their path to help facilitate that. So that's so
Oh
beautiful.
yeah, always here for those who resonate.
Yeah.
It's a journey in itself, bringing in your people
Yeah.
and helping each other raise each other's frequencies. Now, as
100%.
far as your gifts
Yeah.
in helping your clients, what are your clairs, your most prominent clairs that you utilize when tapping in?
Yeah, so I feel that I'm one of those people that have, over the last 7 years, really developed a clear channel all around, from the, I always say, the clairaudient, the clairvoyant, the clairsentient, the claircognizance, the psychic, the telepathic, the transmedium, the kundalini, the sexual, the tantra channels. Like, I feel like I'm pretty clear in a lot of them. Obviously there's some that still, like, I know need a lot of clearing out, like my sexual and tantra channels. I'm always working on those. But as far as with my clients, I usually use the main four clairs plus the psychic and telepathic channels as well. So I really can, I get shown a lot visually, hear, feel, know. Always say though that, I'm sure you've had this too, where clients and members of my community are always like, I want to see more. I want to see more visually, right? And everybody wants to see more. And usually that's the last channel to develop clearly. And there's reasons for that, right? And I teach my clients how to start to develop that channel more. But I always say, like, man, the biggest channel of your superpower is your claircognizant, right? Like, your knowingness. That's the biggest, like, that's my favorite. You took away everything else, seeing, hearing, feeling, like, give me my knowingness, give me that deep instinctual, just, I know. Because you can see and hear and feel all day, but if you don't know what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling, what's the point, right? So that claircognizant, I feel, is our superpower. And that's the one I always say, like, we need to keep tuning that in and trusting in that, and listening to that the most.
Oh yeah, that's the one that I'm always telling my clients too. Like, pay attention. That's the voice that you want to flow with. That's the one you want to pay attention to.
Yeah. And a lot of people too have so much, and I teach this in to my students too, but it's like, you have so much more access to these channels than you know, right? Like, than you're aware of. It's fine tuning them, it's clearing them out of low frequencies, it's taking them up in frequency, it's continuously activating these channels. But a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have access to any of that. And I'm like, yes, you do. And we go through the process of pointing out things. Well, does this happen to you? Or have you heard of this? Or does that, and they're like, oh yeah, that happens to me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your clairvoyant channel, or that's your clairaudient channel. Like, that's access, right? And so people think it's like the movies, where it's just like,
It's just going to
you're
be in your
walking.
face. I see dead
Yeah.
people all in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
like that. No.
exactly.
Oh, that's so. Now, when you're helping clients, in what is like your forte? What would you say is your favorite thing to help clients with?
My favorite thing is to help women slow down and become more conscious, right? When they slow down, to regulate their central nervous system, to be able to even hear their guides, to feel their intuition, to regulate, this part of them that's always in, again, because I work with a lot of high achieving women. And I say high achieving, that doesn't mean that they're all like these boss babes. It could be, I feel like, being a mom, it's like, I've worked with some clients that are stay-at-home moms that are in that fight or flight all the time, that are constantly trying to achieve the perfect household, the perfect this, the perfect that, the da 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 da. And it's like, I want to help women get off that hamster wheel, right? So what I do is I help women learn to slow down, to embody that divine feminine essence in order to create a conscious life, a conscious marriage, a conscious motherhood journey, and conscious mission if they're in business, right? So I really help women heal that hustle by learning and teaching themselves the power of slowing down to gain more access to all of that. And it sounds, simple, like, oh, just slow down. Well, that's not simple to a high achieving woman. In your central nervous system, in your heart, in your mind, like there's these things that you can do and you need to do in order to slow down and to reprogram, right? Reprogram, the conscious state and the subconscious state and your body.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is your background? Are you, did you have you always been psychic clairvoyant? This was always your thing? Did you have another career before?
Great question. Great question.
Okay.
So, when I was young, which I know a lot of my psychic friends had similar experiences, when I was little, I was very psychic, but I had zero support. So, I was in a ton of fear all the time, right? I didn't have anybody that was spiritual support. I didn't really have much support at all. I had a very traumatic upbringing, lots of sexual abuse, lots of abandonment, lots of neglect. For a very long time in my life. That was one of my soul contracts, was to endure a lot of that, right? In order to help clear it from the collective. But so I was alone a lot. I was not supported, growing up. So when I would have these visions, or these beings would come and visit me, I remember the very first time that a being came and visited me, because I can go back now and re-look at all of this, without the fear, but like from this perspective. But I remember the first time that a being like came to visit me, and she looked like my grandma, and she was hovering over my bed, but I knew that it wasn't my grandma. I like intuitively knew. I was like, you're not my grandma. Like what is going on here? But I was terrified. I ended up getting scared. I would see all the shadows. I would see all the things. And then I would be told that, oh, you just had a nightmare, or, oh, you're making things up, or this or that. I would hear things. I would know things, and it'd freak people out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens though, for a lot of us that had this experience as a child, we ended up binding our channels, right? Until we could handle it. And so I ended up getting, binded up so that I wasn't going to be in fear. I was already dealing with enough fear and trauma in my life. I didn't need this, like what they were saying, felt like a psychosis state on top of it. Right. So bound. And then when I was about 32, again, survival mode, graduated high school at 16. So I could get the heck out of Dodge. At 17 in Texas, you could move out on your own, all the things. Like, it was just hustle, right? From a very young age, I went into banking. And, I worked in a pharmacy and banking. I never was like a waitress or anything, because I was way too clumsy for that. I always went into like these big girl jobs, like even though I was just like this little girl, I was like, I had to be a big girl. So I thought it made me feel cool and like, all the things. So I was in like the professional world, reunited with my dad, like really solidified a relationship with my dad in my 20s, and helped him start his business, which is then where I learned about entrepreneurialism in my early 20s. Helped him start that, learned everything from creating an LLC up. And I thrived in, that world. Like early 20s, I was like, I went to dental assistant school when I was like 18, 6 months on the job, realized, why did I do that? You
Not your
can't like
thing, yeah.
look in somebody's mouth. I actually wanted to be a nurse for a really long time. So you're a nurse. But here's how, this is funny. This is kind of off track, but I think this will be like telling.
I love
When I
tangents.
was
Okay.
when I was young, I wanted to be an emergency room nurse, or a child psychologist, or a child oncologist. I'd lost my best friend to to cancer, and then to a child divorce attorney, like a divorce attorney. And I was like, if that doesn't just show you so much trauma, like,
You,
like all
you got
these
to
things
give back in all the ways. Yeah.
yeah.
Aw.
And so yeah, in my mid 20s, I actually moved to California for a couple of years to help. I started this band management company with a friend. So we managed bands for House of Blues on Sunset and did all these things. And then in 2012, I was like, oh, I need to get back to Texas. So I came back to Texas and started my own social media agency. It's called Media Kind at the time, and started that, was really good at that. I was also from 2010 to now a transformational life coach. So went to schooling to be a transformational life coach. Again, always wanting to serve, that, like, again, part of the hustle, right? Is that savior complex that we get, that we can just help everyone. Okay. So life coach, social media agency, and then I got pregnant. And then that's when, I was like, okay, I just want to be a mom, because this was a miracle. I was told since I was 17, I couldn't have kids, never even had a pregnancy scare until I met my younger than me, now husband. And so we got pregnant on the second date. So it was like, what? I was embarrassed to buy a pregnancy test. It was so funny because I'd never had to before. Anyways, so I wanted to be a mom, and then did that. 6 months postpartum, my husband broke both his legs. This is like short, fast version. Broke both his legs on the job. He's a career firefighter, and got unlawfully terminated. And we had to go into this lawsuit. So our financials just went because I had stopped taking coaching clients, and I had closed my social media agency because I just wanted to be a mom. Right. And so I was having horrible postpartum, all of that. Then I was introduced to a product, or some products, some essential oils, through a company of a friend. Found out that was network marketing. I was like, I want nothing to do with it. And then the story goes, like, I ended up just sharing and ended up becoming one of the top leaders in that company, because I was able to infuse my life coaching stuff with my social media knowledge. And I was like, I'm doing this not salesy, not pushy. I'm just sharing my stories about how these oils have really helped me emotionally postpartum, and what they've done for me, and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, did that. And that was 7 years ago, or that was 10 years ago. And then in that company, I'm still with that company, but in that company, those first 3 years, we hit the top rank in the company, which is when I burned out for the biggest rock bottom time, right? When I was like, oh my gosh, that was 7 years ago, right? Where I just hit rock bottom. And that's when I had my massive spiritual awakening, where just overnight, like, dropped in, quit drinking alcohol, started hearing things again. It started with my clairaudience, because I think my claircognizant was still kind of muffled with the alcohol and with, just like the hustle. So it was like I started like hearing things and feeling things, and I was like, oh shit. And my soul, like literally my higher self, just started talking to me like, this has been cute. Like, it's kind of sassy, but like, this has been cute, but like, it's time. It's time. Is pretty much like the messages I kept getting. And I didn't know what it's time meant, but I obviously have learned what that means over the last 7 years. So had that awakening 7 years ago. Dove the synchronicities of the mentors and the healers that I connected with, that helped me really activate and open my gifts. I was in alchemy. Like, I went through an intensive alchemy training for 4 years, but about a year and a half into my awakening, I knew that I was meant to share this with other women. I knew that, like, I had dug so deep for like a year and a half, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I see so many women that could benefit from this work. Right. And then that's when I also realized that community was missing, like from the teachers and mentors that I was working with. I was like, there's no community. Like, I don't feel like I have people that I can like share this journey with. Like, we're all in these classes together, but like, there's not community. And so it was missing. So that's when I created Soul Up, and over 5 years ago at this point, which is like my community where I help women do this. And it's, really facilitates the healing and the transformation work with the community aspect. And that's also when I started taking coaching clients again, but with a whole different spin, because as a life coach, 14, 15 years ago, it was very masculine, right? Like
Mhm.
very coachy, like, not a lot of empathy, compassion, and spirituality was infused back then, right? It was pure, just
Yeah.
hardcore. So yeah, it's kind of evolved over and over and over what it's become today. But yeah, I think I've been through it all and developed it all through all these experiences.
I think that's amazing. Good for
Thank
you.
you.
Especially
Thank you.
especially given everything you said you've been through. And
Hmm.
as you're talking, I could we could probably talk all day. I
I
did
love it.
everything backwards. As my dad said, me and my boyfriend, now husband, were playing house. I bought my first house at 22.
Oh, I love that.
21, I'm sorry, at 22. 3 months later, got pregnant. So,
Oh, I love that.
but I had
I
been with
love
him
that.
since 16. But yeah,
Yeah,
you don't know where your life goes. I just wanted to be a mom. Everything that you I wish everything that you teach, I wish everything that I know now, all the skills, same thing. I've been to the city, I've done crazy trainings. I had severe postpartum depression
same.
twice.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
I feel like there's nothing better than being able to share, especially with women, the things that we wish we knew, right?
100%. Yeah,
And I
and
feel
that's the
like
point,
that's where it
right?
comes from the soul. Like when you've
Mhm.
been through so much and
Mhm.
you don't want to not necessarily prevent them because like you said, some people it's just not their journey in this
Yeah.
life. But to just enlighten them a little bit and make them
Yeah.
feel safe and not alone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. And I always say, like, want you to take my hindsight and use it as your foresight. Like, let's
Yeah.
meld the two, because you're right though, we can't and going back to healing, a part of healing the hustle is healing, like we talked about, that savior complex, right? Like feeling like we have to help everybody. And I think that's what ended up in the network marketing business that I'm in, that I just lead completely different the last 7 years than I did those first three. Was I was doing everything for everyone and realized that was a pattern in my life, right? Like,
Hmm.
because if I was in control, I felt safe. So it's like there's this whole aspect of we can't help, we cannot do the work for the women. I can't do the work for my students or for my clients, but we can be a lighthouse. I always say, like, the visual that I always like to show my clients is like, we're the lighthouse, right? So we're shining our light out into the ocean and hopefully bringing the ships in. Okay. You don't see the lighthouse attendant get out of the lighthouse, come down, go over the jetties, and go out into the ocean and try to bring wrecked ships to the shore. That's not what we're meant to do. But a lot of
That
times
chills. That's beautiful.
I
Yeah.
know we will do that. But instead, we have to remember our power is in being in the lighthouse tower and just trusting that who is meant to come to shore and to activate and awaken to come home to themselves will do that. We don't have to self sacrifice or go into savior mentality, because that just ends up damaging us.
Yeah, I noticed the difference now between a place of doing it out of pure heart and fun versus
Yep.
doing it out of, like you said, I've made the six figures. I've made, I've been the big moving
Yep.
way up on the corporate ladder,
Yep.
and that's not where the worthiness is.
Right.
The
Yeah.
worthiness is in here, and nobody can force that to
Yeah.
awaken.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah.
that's hard. That's a part, I talk about this in my book and a lot of my sharing that I do on social media. But one of the biggest things for taking the leap into this work, your healing work, your shadow work, your healing of the hustle, whatever it is knowing, it's a big thing to let go with the ego and let go of, oh, I have to make this much money or have to do this. Like, I always teach, like, the money will come when, even more when you're aligned, when you get back into true alignment and you're living out your soul's purpose. Yeah, you may have a dip for a little while, but that will all recalibrate to what it's meant to be and more, because you're already an energetic match for it. But it's even going to be better. It's going to be even better when you're doing it from a place of like alignment and truth, and not scarcity and lack and struggle and survival.
Oh yeah, always. Now, what would so if you could give, this is always my favorite question. If you could give words of wisdom to other women out there who want to slow down, who but are
Mm-hmm.
still maybe in that, working 9 to 5, or still in that stay at home mom hustle phase. Because I was a stay at home mom when I left to work on my own self-healing, and
Yeah.
I couldn't sit still. Like, I still had to heal people, but I had to
Yeah.
learn how, like, my husband's like, you don't have to go back to work. You don't have to, like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. But when you have that drive, when you have that desire, what is your best words of wisdom in someone starting out?
And starting out. So I have a couple of practices that I really lean into because for me, it is about regulating your central nervous system, starting to really prime your central nervous system to feel safe in the slowing down. And for some people, jumping straight into just a deep meditation every morning sounds horrible, right? Or, breath work sounds terrifying, and there's a lot of resistance there. So I'm going to share just a practice that I've been teaching for 5 years now to all my students. And it's something that so many people can benefit from. And it's called MTM. So I call them mindful transition meditations. Okay. And this is just to slowly start to get your central nervous system used to slowing down, for you calling back all your power, for you being at a place of peace as much as you can throughout the day without some big like disruption of your days, or having to allot a lot of time. But the importance of this is, if you truly have that desire to slow down, if you have that desire to, you're burned out, you're tired, you're exhausted, but you just don't know what to do, right? And you're just in this, I always say, the snowball effect every day. You wake up, you're rushing out the door, you're doing this, you're doing that, and it's just snowballing, and all the energy's coming together. And at the end of the night, you crash and burn, and you realize, oh well, no wonder I don't have a sex drive, or no wonder I'm just exhausted, or no wonder I'm so unhappy, is like just the snowball of craziness all day. So with the MTMs, what you do is I always challenge people to do this for at least 10 days in a row. And it's really simple, but it's going to be really challenging for those high achieving women out there that are used to the go, 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 but you can do it. Okay. So what you do is, in between every task, in between every minute task, you stop, put your hand on your heart, close your eyes if you can, and take 30, 60, 90 seconds of breath. Okay. And all this is doing, and doing this to really, trigger and get all in the vagus nerve and all this stuff. But it's like bringing, the intention is to clear the energy from the last task and call all your power back to you. So you're grounded, you're present. And then you go to your next task. So after this podcast, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to MTM, and I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to ground in before I move into emails, before I move into checking in with my clients. You go and you brush your teeth in the morning before you just rush off to something else. And I had a mom, she's a mom of 4, and one of my clients, and she was like, well, she has a newborn. She's like, I truly feel that I don't have like 90 seconds. And I was like, 3 breaths. And if you can't do 3 breaths, long breaths, then you need to look at that and really look at that and go, wait, I'm telling myself I don't have time for 3 breaths in between each task. Like, that's the ego. That's not truth. Like, is that really true? Or is
That
that
is
your mind?
probably I don't mean to cut you off, but that is probably the most common thing that I get people I don't have time for that. I don't know. Because
Yep.
I tell everyone to, like, ground, connect, protect every day, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I love
Mm-hmm.
your technique. I'm going to try that
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, the 3 deep breaths reset everything. 3 breaths.
And it's like, and I want people to commit to 10 days, because you'll just notice you're going to be more peaceful. You're going to feel more grounded. You're going to be happier. You're going to have more sex drive. You're going to have, it's like,
Yeah.
it's just the science behind this. And so, like, you, instead of going from the laundry, and I'm sure all the women in this listening have felt this. I've caught myself like sprinting across the house, like half sprinting just to go do the dishes. And I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I don't have to rush to do anything. So I will like intentionally move slow. But after I finish laundry, with the intention, calling all my power, clearing all, because if not, what happens is something, not high frequency, I don't want to say horrible, happens. Say that you stump your toe in the morning. I have this like imagery that I usually do, but I won't put your listeners into an anxiety. It's like you stump your, there's like, if not, this is what most people's days like, right? They wake up late. They realize, oh my gosh, I'm rushing. I'm going to be late. So they're like running around. And when we're running around like a chicken with our head cut off, we're literally disconnected from consciousness. Like, we're not conscious. We're on autopilot and we're in overdrive, right? So you're running around around. And because you're running around because you're late, what do? You stump your toe because you're not paying attention. And then you get all pissed off and you stump your toe. And then your kid's like, I can't find my shoe. And then you're frazzled and you're not conscious because you're frazzled and you're running around and you can't find the shoe. And you're like, oh my God, I can't find the shoe. Because if you would slow down and you would clear your energy with an MTM and you would clear those clear cognizant channels, and it would probably drop in exactly where the shoe is. But because you're up here in fight or flight survival mode, you're not. And then you get in the car and you're speeding because you're late and the kids are screaming in the background. And guess what? You get pulled over, and then you're going to be even more late because you were not consciously creating your day, right? You're spiral. And so, but with these MTMs, you're clearing the energy, you're grounding yourself, you're moving from one thing to the next with intention, and you're going to be more highly connected to your consciousness. Your heart rate's going to be better. You're going to be more clear minded. You're going to have more peace in your heart and love in your heart because you're clearing your energy and not taking and dragging everything through your day until the end. And it's a giant snowball that's going to explode on that tree at the bottom of the hill. Right. So MTMs are my suggestion for the women that wants to start slowing down. They want to start, really learning what it feels like to feel safe in their body, to feel, kind of like put the hustle to the side, but in a digestible way, the MTMs for 10 days.
I love that. Thank you. I will share that information, and I'll also share your contact information for anybody who wants to meet with Echo or have a session or join her membership. So
beautiful.
Always beautiful messages, always like from the heart, and reminding us that we're not alone, which is most important. I think that we're in this together.
It is beautiful. So thank you so much.
Any last words of wisdom that you want to share?
I just want everybody to know that, like, Allie and I aren't some magical, once in a lifetime. Yes, we are. But like, I should take that back. We are once in a lifetime magical beings, but we're not just something that's like out here. Like, if you resonated with our story of our past, like, I truly want women to know, number one, like you said, that's one of my missions too, is that they're not alone. And number two, that it's possible to heal, that anything is possible. And if we can do it, you can do it. And that sounds so cheesy and so cliche, but it's the truth.
It is. It's the cold, hard truth, the proof in the pudding. You and I sitting here saying that we healed crazy diseases.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you and your time.
It's been a pleasure.
And go and do your heart-centered grounding now, and go ahead and do your emails and laundry. So,
yes.
As I will be doing too. Thank you. So thank you for everybody listening in. Peace out and God bless. Thank you.